Yeah, yeah, right. Nice day. Every day.
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will now call the regular city council meeting of January 12th to order. Time is now 7 o'clock. The Opens Meeting Act is posted on the rear wall next to the agendas. At this time, we'll do roll call. Please vote for roll call.
Councilmember Coons, are you with us?
He's not. He's just listening in because.
Seven council members are present, Mayor.
Thank you. Moving on to mayor's comments. Just have a few items tonight I'd like to talk about. First thing is the city of Fremont lost a very special member of its team here recently. Our Parks and Director Kim Koski. Just would like to take this time to remember her life as a very dedicated employee to the city of Fremont. She put in over 25 years, was just given that award back in November. And so she was extremely involved in the development of this Fremont Splash Station, as well as the city auditorium renovations that were completed. So we'll say that the city, we're working on something to honor Kim. Hopefully we can announce something in the near future, but we'll working on that at this moment. So we honor Kim tonight and her dedication to Fremont, and thank her very much for her commitment, and we will miss her dearly for sure. Next item, like to talk about, just a reminder for the city council retreat coming up this Saturday. Look forward to going over the items on the agenda, the comprehensive plan, the 1 and 6 capital improvement plan, and discussing our goals. So look forward to seeing council here on Saturday from 8 to 12. Last item is just like to mention that January 24th through January 30th is Fremont School Choice Week. And so I have signed a proclamation of observance of this. So a copy of this would be available at the city if anybody wants to read it. But again, this will be Fremont School Choice Week is January 24th through January 30th. So we want to thank all those in Fremont involved with our school system, our private schools, and the job that they do for our kids. Well, that's all I have for my comments. We'll move on to item number 1. Motion to adopt current agenda for the January 12th, 2021 regular meeting. Can I have a motion to adopt the current agenda? Councilman Gibson.
I would make that motion to accept the agenda.
Councilwoman Ganem. Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Moving on to the consent agenda, all items in the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or a citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Are there any items from council staff or the public on the consent agenda that would be removed for further discussion? Councilman Muir.
Some minor questions on item 9 and 10.
Any other items? Seeing none, I would take a motion to approve the consent agenda, item 2 through 8 and item 11. Councilman Jensen.
Yeah, I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda items 2 through 8 and item number 11.
Councilman Legband.
And I will second that.
Cast your votes.
The motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Moving on to item 9, resolution 2201-003, authorizing the mayor and the fire chief to sign the Tri-Mutual Aid Firefighters Association Intra-Local Agreement. This time we'll have staff report.
Test. All right. Todd Burnt, Fire Chief. What you see in front of you is a interlocal agreement. The association's been working on this for a couple of years to update their previous one. Their last one was probably about 2 pages long and is pretty simple, and that was probably about 2004. So this one updated. There's a lot of big changes in it. Some of the big ones is really reimbursement. If we would provide assistance to one of those towns in the agreement, and after 24 hours, we can actually start billing some of our costs, the engines and our personnel through FEMA or NEMA, anything like that. Record keeping is another big thing on through this, and just making sure that if we're not available, just making sure that receiving fire department knows that we're not available or anything like that. So,
Any questions for our fire chief, Councilman Yerger?
I just had one, and it's more probably cosmetic than anything, but I wanted to make sure that I understood the agreement, interlocal agreement is, the agreement says it's going to be effective on the date of execution. The agreement draft signature page on page 8 of our filing material here indicates, although it's not ready to sign, I assume it's going to be you and the mayor that are going to sign this document, but it's indicated that this is going to be dated in 2020. So my question is this document being backdated for some reason, or is it going to be executed today? And
it'll probably be executed today. It's just, that's what they sent out at that time in December when they sent out this contract to all the fire departments. That's what they had on there.
Okay, so it'll reflect today's date. Thanks.
Any other questions for Chief? Any comments from the public? Any additional comments from council? I would take a motion in regards to this item. Councilman Yerger.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2020-003. Excuse me, 2021-003.
Councilman Legman.
And I will second that also.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Item 10, motion to authorize the mayor to sign an agreement extending workers' compensation claims administration services with TriStar for the 2021 calendar year. This time we'll have staff report.
Honorable Mayor and City Council, Jennifer McDuffie, Human Resources Director. Last month, we brought
Hey,
forth-
Jennifer, hold on a second. We can't hear you. Hey, Jennifer, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Honorable Mayor and City Council, Jennifer McDuffie, Director of Human Resources. Last month, we brought forth the renewal for our workers' compensation claims administration with TriStar. The renewal was approved. This is the agreement that goes along with that renewal. It wasn't available last month. We've reviewed it. It appears to match what we agreed upon. And we've had the attorney's office review it, and they have approved the agreement as well. I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Jennifer? Councilman Yerger.
I only have one similar to the previous item. The claims service agreement indicates, and there's a blank date for fill-in that says someday at December of 2020. And again, I'm wondering if this document's being backdated into December of 2020, or whether this agreement will be executed in 2021, since it's applicable from January 1, to December 31 of 2021.
I don't believe it to TriStar that it makes any difference. when we date it. So they are well, that I was going to bring it this evening, so I don't think that they mind if it's backdated or if it's current dated.
Well, so the answer to my question is, which date are we filling in at the top of the claim service agreement?
We would fill in tonight's date,
Say that again, Jennifer.
today's date, if it's
Today's
approved.
date.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Jennifer? Any comments from the public? Any comments from council? I would take a motion in regards to this item. Councilman Yerger,
Make a motion to approve the authorization for the mayor to sign the agreement extending workers' compensation claims and administrative services with TriStar for the 2021 calendar year.
Councilman Sukram,
I'll second that.
cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Moving on to unfinished business. Item 12, dispense with and approve December 8th, 2020 City Council meeting minutes as amended. This time we'll have staff report.
Mayor and council, at our meeting on the 29th of December, it was brought to my attention, there were a couple items as discussed here a little bit. Item 1 and item number 28. The minutes now reflect that on the December 8th meeting that there was information added to the minutes at that meeting with regards to item number 20. These minutes now reflect that change. And then on item number 28, I corrected a vote. And so I would ask the city council approve these minutes as they've been amended and presented.
Any questions for staff? Any comments from the public? Any additional comments from council? I would take a motion to dispense with and approve December 8th, 2020 City Council meeting minutes as amended. Councilman Gibson,
I'll make that motion.
Councilman Legban. Please cast your votes.
The motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Moving on to new business, item 13, ordinance 5549, amending chapter 3, article 7 of the Fremont Municipal Code, particularly sections 3-701 Municipal Library, operation and funding, 3-702 Municipal Library, damaged and lost material, 3-703 Municipal Library, book removal, and section 3-704 Municipal Library cost of use. This would be for the first reading. This time we'll have staff report.
Laura England Biggs, Interim Director, Keene Memorial Library. Honorable Mayor and City Council, this is coming before you to clean up some outdated language referring to the art gallery, museum, and reading rooms that we do not have, and to update books to materials so that it covers all of the items that are available through the library.
Thank you. Any questions for Laura? Councilman Gibson? Councilman Jensen?
I just wanted to ask Laura, this looks pretty straightforward. We're just changing up a little bit of language here. Would you want us to suspend the reading of the second and third and go right to final reading tonight?
I would certainly leave that to your discretion.
Thank you.
Councilman Yerger?
Well, sort of in response to Councilman Jensen's item and the discussion that I had with the interim library director, I don't know, yesterday. I'd like to offer these documents for the record first, I guess, before I go on.
I would leave it to council to vote on a motion to receive these documents. Councilman Yerger,
I offer for those documents to be received by the council at this meeting for discussion, please.
Councilman Ellis. Cast your votes to receive.
Motion fails 3-4.
Questions for Laura? We're at this point. Councilman Yerger.
Well, without the benefit of the document in front of everyone, unfortunately, I wanted to state for the record what that document would have shown and what I was prepared to discuss, which I did discuss with the interim director beforehand, before the meeting, was that there were several other, I don't know if you call them cosmetic, but corrections to the Section 3 library code that were originally discussed and brought forward by the prior library director, discussed with and approved by the library board in 1920, that didn't find their way into the items that are before us tonight in the packet material for edits. And largely, like I said, they were changing some things that indicated, for example, in paragraph 701, that it was the public library, and in parens, it was the Keene Memorial Library. Changed the words in 3702 from injuries to material to damages. Changed the 703 title to material rather than book. Changed also the references to librarian throughout the document, because we actually appoint a library director rather than a librarian. And so those were corrected by the prior board. In 704, there was a change that said that the library was going to issue free library cards for the use by residents of the city. Again, the library director was changed to replace librarian. And 3705 was modified to include the words resides within the city limit rather than resides in the municipality. Subparagraph A of the document said that council members, the mayor and the council members could not be part of the library board, and an addition was made to also include or the city administration. Subparagraph C indicated that the library board should conduct their meetings in compliance with the open meetings laws of the state of Nebraska, much like other boards and commissions that we have do. Paragraph D was to establish regular meeting dates and meet at such time as the council, was the insertion. Subparagraph G, again, library director. And in particular, 706 was upon request. There was some difficulty by the library board in always getting their report done by February, which is a state law requirement to be done by February. But the appeal was, could you put language into the city code that would at least allow us to request with advance consent of the council to file this after February, no later than May 30th, if in fact data was not yet available from the finance department in order to complete the report. Those were all changes that were considered by the library director preceding and the council. I had hoped that in fact you would have received this document, not for purposes of modifying it on the fly tonight, but that you would take it up for consideration, that we could move first reading, consider these additional items that had been considered by the prior director and the board as being additional and still relative adjustments that should be made, and those would be heard at second reading. That was the purpose. We can provide the edits after the fact. Since they didn't get into the record tonight, I went through them essentially, but they certainly can be provided by email. They were not provided to you in the packet because they were discerned after that deadline on Friday over the weekend when doing review, and they were discussed with the acting library director on that same day.
Any other questions for staff? Councilman Legban.
Well, I think this is fine to go through second reading or first reading now and then next meeting, discuss this and have the second reading. But I just want to remind Mr. Yerger, the reason why I objected is that these rules were put in by you. You were the one that wanted these rules. And that's what we're abiding by.
Any other questions for staff? Any comments from the public? Any comments from council? Seeing none, I would take a motion to hold first reading. Councilman Jensen,
Yeah, I'll make the motion to hold first reading.
Councilman Yerger,
I'd like to amend the motion to hold first reading to say that we're holding first reading with the potential for amending at second reading for the items just discussed.
there was a motion on the floor to hold first reading. I will move forward with that motion if there's a second.
The motion to amend would be voted on first and then vote on the original motion
Thank you.
after that.
So the motion, can you repeat your motion, Councilman Yerger, just for everybody?
My motion was to amend holding first reading to say we're holding first reading with the anticipation that the items just discussed would be a portion or included with regards to discussion on second reading.
Councilman Jensen,
I'll make that second.
cast your votes.
Motion carries 6-1, Mayor.
We'll now have first reading. No, no first reading. Okay. We're moving on to 14. Okay, my fault. Thank you. Now we're take a motion on the amended ordinance. Okay. Need a second. Councilman Yerger.
Yes, I'll second the amended motion to have first reading as amended.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Okay, we'll move forward with first reading.
An ordinance of the city of Fremont, Nebraska, amending chapter 3, article 7 of the Fremont Municipal Code, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance, providing when the fees are effective and providing for when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect on first reading.
Thank you. Moving on to item 14. Resolution 2021-004 to adopt meals and service awards policy. This time we'll have staff report.
Mayor and City Council, Brian Newton, City Administrator. You have before you tonight, if you look in the staff report, some background on what prompted this resolution and policy. State statute is really clear that in order for the city to expend funds or for the city to do reimbursement, that would be reimbursement for staff or reimbursement for council, whoever, that you either have to have prior approval or you have to have a uniform policy such as this. We've looked back, this has been an issue for years. We have instances where we'll have a meeting and we'll have it over lunch and we'll buy pizza. We can't pay for it, the city can't pay for it. And so staff has to take a collection just to buy pizza to have a meeting with city business. Jennifer brought this to my attention. You know, for the UDC, she's got a steering committee and she'd like to have many of those meetings over lunch simply because a lot of those folks on the steering committee are businesses. They've got work to do. They can take off for lunch and come to a meeting real quick. Again, we can't do that and use city funds simply because it's not allowed because we don't have prior approval or we don't have a policy. You also, if you looked at, and some of you have went to training before, and it's very clear that unless we get prior approval or we have a policy, the lunches that or the meals that you paid for if you went to training should not have been approved. And so again, this policy is needed to clean that up. Also, service awards. We have an internal policy that set service awards at $25. Don't ask me where it came from. Don't ask me how long we've had it, but we've had it. And it's getting to the point on service awards that it's really tough to get any kind of a plaque at all for folks that have, or we're celebrating their anniversary for $25. And so we really need to bump that up. It really came to light when we did a plaque for the mayor. Again, we had a $25 rule. Mayor's plaque was over $100. We had to pay for it ourselves because we couldn't use city funds because we didn't have a policy to pay for a service award for more than $25. And so this policy is really clear about setting up a procedure that's by policy, so we can change it as we needed to change it, but allows us to buy meals, to reimburse staff. The only time, if you notice in the policy itself, it's very clear that because you are paid as city council members, you're now eligible to get reimbursed for meals unless you're at a meeting of a joint public meeting with one or more governing bodies. And I think governing bodies is pretty clear. I don't think, Travis, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure the planning commission would be a governing body under chapter 13. So it would be only like a county or some. I don't think the league would be a governing body either. Yeah, that's true. If you had multiple coming together from other cities, yes, at a league meeting, yes, you're right. And then it would cover those meals. But unfortunately, that's just the way the state law reads. We have, if you look at the policy, we do one recognition dinner a year. And we've already set that at $50. We go out and get bids for that. That's not new. That's state law. We've complied with that for years. And then I put an approval process in there. So any of the expenses for elected officials would be approved by the mayor. Any expenses by staff or employees would be approved by me. And then I raised the service awards up. So in other words, we could spend up to $100 for any employee that has 25 years or less, or I'm sorry, less than 25 years, and up to $150 for service awards for anybody that has 25 years of service or more. And we've talked about getting a little bit larger plaque for 25 years or more. There's not that many folks. But again, we always ran into the 25 before, and so we couldn't do that. I think that would be nice to do. And so I'm just asking you to approve this policy so we can actually formulate by state law that we actually have a policy that covers meals and service awards under this section of statute. And I'll take any questions.
Any questions for staff? Councilman Yerger.
I have two. With regards to the paragraph on meals, I wondered whether or not you gave any consideration as to whether or not that paragraph should contain somewhere in it not to exceed language with some sort of a cost value relative to the meals. This would appear to be an unlimited item. And I guess prudent spending would say maybe there should be some sort of not to exceed language. And I wondered if you considered that. My other concern is, and it needs to be fixed in my opinion, the resolution specifically states in the now therefore be it resolved statement that the mayor and the city clerk are going to approve this. I think this is city council approval.
Yeah, that's a typo. Good catch.
But I would entertain whether or not you just give any thought to whether or not there should be some not to exceed language limits with regards to the opening paragraph.
Sure. I mean, we can put in there like a $15 per person or something like that. So. Yeah.
If that's amenable to staff, I would offer that we make that adjustment.
No, that's a recognition dinner. He's talking about the meals, just regular meals.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff? Any comments from the public?
Teresa Seawick, 1929 East 9th. I'm sitting here and my stomach is turning and I'm appalled by this. People are starving. People don't have food on their tables, and you're talking about your lunches getting paid for. Are you kidding me? People work and they don't get their lunches paid for. Are you kidding? They pay out of pocket. They bring potluck dinners. They don't get their lunches paid for their meetings. And you guys are talking about getting your lunches paid for? It's ridiculous. Pay for them yourself. Plaques, getting plaques to put on your wall just to throw them away later on, spending $100 when these people don't have $100 in their pocket. Are you kidding me? Wake up, go outside, go talk to these people. That's ridiculous.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Any comments from council? Councilman Yerger?
Well, I still have a motion to amend. If other council members have comment, I'll certainly wait, but there is a motion laying to amend on the floor.
We've got one hand raised on the phone.
Oh, okay.
You see that, Joey?
Yep. We did have another hand raised here on Zoom. There's a 402-615. Go ahead and state your name and address, please.
Hi, this is Susan Jacobus, 1805 North D Street. And I am in supportive of what you are proposing, Mr. Newton. I think it's been long overdue. And I think it would behoove us to allow for awards to be given. People that have reached milestones, they're to be commended. And I think it's just a very kind gesture to get a plaque, whether it's 5 years or 25 years. And I don't disagree with Mr. Yerger's concept that it should have some kind of a cap or a limit, but there should be lunches served when people are doing a public service, such as coming together and having meetings over the hours where someone would normally be having lunch or suppers, et cetera, and they're dedicating their time and donating their time, which none of us work for free, and that volunteer is appreciated, and at least serving them lunch so they have that time to give. So I would, in this instance, totally agree with what Mr. Newton's proposing. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public?
Okay, Barb Bushy. I'm a resident of Fremont, Nebraska. I don't have an issue with someone getting a plaque. My issue is the cost went from 25 to up to 125. Do I understand that right? Or 100? That's a 400% increase. Now, as far as the lunch, the people, if it's over their lunch hour, they're going to be here anyway. I can't see allowing $15 per person for a luncheon meal. There could be, they can bring their lunch. If they have to have a meeting outside of work, I can see them being reimbursed something. But I think that's the rates that you're talking are, I think, a little bit exorbitant. And yeah, I do agree with that, they should have a plaque, but I just don't agree with the 400 and 500% increase in the cost. I understand everything's gone up, but not that much.
Thank you. Any other comments? If there's no other comments from council, Councilman Yeager, if you want to state your
I wanna say
amendment.
something, Joey.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
My name is Teresa McGrander, 1825 North Keene, Fremont, Nebraska. I have no problem with your service awards. I think they were very nice. The one that Mr. Getchman got, you went way and above for him. And we all know why. I'm sure Joey wouldn't mind one. But as far as paying for lunches when you meet on your lunch break, no. Like the lady prior to me, you can buy your own lunch. We all do. And we all have meetings. We're organized. And like you said, take a potluck. Everybody can make a salad and a sandwich or get one of them big sandwiches from Walmart. If that's not above any of you. Lunches should not be paid without the approval of the mayor.
Thank you. Any other comments? So seeing none, would move, there's a motion on the table to amend, and Councilman, you want to state your amendments just so that council is aware of it again.
I did have another, I just wanted to ask a question. I just wanted to ask Brian, I just wanted to ask how often the lunch thing comes up. I mean, how often is that actually in play?
A couple times a year.
Couple
Plaques.
times a year?
A couple times a year. It's not very often. Jennifer's going to hold more steering meetings, so it's going to be more prevalent here as we go through the UDC. Again, we're inviting guests in, so it's something I think it's as well deserved. Plaques, you know, we only do it 5, 10, 15. We only do 5-year intervals. So the Mayor Getchman's the same plaque that we've given all prior mayors. So. And Jody's got her hand up too.
Hi, Jody. If you're on, you can go ahead.
Jody Sanders, Director of Finance for the City of Fremont. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes. Yep.
Okay. I was just going to point out that if you were to, rather than put a dollar amount in for the amendment, if you were willing to accept the GSA guidelines that we have for our travel policy reimbursements for whichever meal you're covering, I think it's breakfast is 13, lunch is 14, and dinner is 23. But that way, as those rates are adjusted up or down, depending on the economy, that way we wouldn't have to come back and revisit the policy if we avoided putting a dollar amount in it.
Which is what we do for mileage.
Yes.
Thank you, Jody. Any questions for Jody? Is there any other comments from council? Seeing none, there's a motion on the floor to amend this resolution. Is there a second? Or go ahead with the actual amendment, Brad. Sorry.
Well,
More clear.
based on what I heard from the city administrator, the opening paragraph would need to have modification in the first line to say something to the effect that not to exceed $15 per person as payment or reimbursement for actual expenses, I guess would probably cover it. I'm sensitive to what we've heard from the public, but I'm also cognizant of the fact that this is problematic relative to state law. It's also not uncommon practice in the business world when you have working items like this to have the opportunity to work through and make provisions. So I'm torn between what I heard, but I still think it's appropriate for us to put limits on here. This should not be unlimited spending. So that's my motion.
Councilman Legman.
I will second that. I agree with Brad.
Cast your votes on the amendment.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Now we will vote on the amended resolution 2021-004. Councilman Yerger.
I made a mistake in not making sure that we also amended the last paragraph to reflect that it's the mayor and city
It's a
council.
typo. We'll catch that one.
Okay. So then I lost track. So then I guess we're to the point of
We're voting on the amended resolution or for a motion.
motion to
Correct.
approve the amended resolution. I'll make that motion.
Councilman Jensen,
I will second that.
cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Item 15, Resolution 2021-005, authorizing and approving the supplemental agreement with Civil Solutions LLC for Phase 2 design services for the Johnson Road South Pavement Improvements Project, Phase 2. This time we'll have staff report.
Dave Godikin, Director of Public Works, Honorable Mayor, City Council. This agreement is to finish out the design work and the coordination with the UP Railroad for that segment of Johnson Road South between Morningside Road and Jack Sutton Road, where the road crosses the railroad tracks. We did the paving project last year where we paved 90% of that street, but we had yet not gotten the permits from the railroad to be on their property. This supplemental agreement is for our consultant, Civil Solutions, to finish out that negotiation process with the railroad and then also make whatever final changes to the plans that are required. We hope to have this project wrapped up yet before this construction season and be out for bids yet this year on that segment of road. But this will be for the design work to finish out that little segment.
Any questions for our Public Works Director? Councilman Yerger.
My question might be beyond the scope, but hopefully it's not, in the sense that I see this is actually for the consulting services, et cetera. My question, it really is one of, does the city have obligation with regards to this paving project as it goes through the railroad tracks, rather than this is railroad expense? This is just for the consulting work, I understand. I'm just concerned or interested in knowing whether the cost ultimately is ours or the railroads. Are they participating in any way in these consulting fees? These are all on the city.
No, this is 100% city costs.
Any other questions for staff? Any comments from the public? Any other comments from council? I would take a motion in regards to this item. Councilman Yerger.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2021-005.
Councilman Sukram.
I'll second that.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Thank you. Item 16, Councilmember Yerger item, receive and require DCHS monthly report. Item A, motion to receive DCHS November and December tracking reports as submitted to the city. So I would take a motion to receive.
Could I ask,
Yeah.
can I make when I put the agenda packet together, I received this item from Councilmember Yerger. So there's a number of materials that were supposed to be included in the packet. I missed his attachment and those documents were not included, so should have been included. But I do have copies to hand out if the council makes the motion to receive them into the record. So.
Okay. Thank you. I would take a motion to receive the documents. Councilman Yerger.
I would make a motion to receive the documents that were originally intended for the packet.
Councilman Gibson.
I will second that.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Thank you. We've received them. Moving on to item B, motion to require the city administrator to obtain the DCHS, its detailed animal-specific monthly tracking reports for the months of November and December, and all future months that provide the data contained in the previously provided detailed report attached herein as a sample. This is a Councilmember Yerger item. Councilman Yerger.
In the materials that you just received into the record, the first portion of those documents were the November and December report that you received in your government email account. The additional document that was included, which is the longer document, is the detailed tracking report that the city used to receive that I believe we should always have been receiving and that we need to receive going forward. And one might say, why? Why do we need to receive that? The reports that we're currently getting from the Dodge County Humane Society for intake and outtake don't even reflect the information we used to get on a handwritten report from them. That is, they do not show even the animals that are included in facility. That is, we have no way of knowing how many animals are there. For example, at the last meeting, it was purported that they had 50. We don't have any way to know that from the reports we're receiving. The detailed reports that we used to get were animal specific, so we knew the date the animal entered, the kind of care that it got, whether they were spayed or neutered, whether they returned, they were on hold for rabies or bite information for law enforcement, et cetera. Those long reports have all of that. I believe that's what we should get, and I believe that's what the city should require of DCHS as long as they continue to hold the contract. We've brought this up before, but we've not formalized it to make that request known. I believe it's in concert with the contract, and we need to formalize the request, and that's what this motion would do. It's asking the city administrator to obtain these documents for the 2 months that we just entered into the record and for all future months.
Councilman Legman.
Yeah, I guess my question's more directed at legal. I didn't get the backup packet, but until now. So, but my questions are, don't we already do this? Isn't most of this public?
The documents that are required to be submitted pursuant to the contract are public documents.
Right.
And for this specific item, motion to require, I would just amend it. Councilmember Yerger to motion to request requiring an action that someone obtained something from a third party. I think that was that wouldn't really hold up to scrutiny as far as being enforceable. So if the request is to receive a certain type of document from a third party, I guess the council would want to direct the city administration to request that those type of documents be provided. But yes, these are public documents.
And then
Once provided to the city, they're public.
Then my next question was going to be, just because we ask them doesn't mean they have to or going to do this detail that we just did, even though if we want them to.
There are contractual requirements, and if we want to do something outside of.
Excuse me.
Order, please. Thank you.
As long as they fulfill contract requirements, as far as being more detailed, parties to a contract can request that type of performance. It's not necessarily, mandated we can't mandate it, so to speak, but it can be requested.
I guess that was my next question. Does this legally have to be done?
Under the contract, this type of report, the form of the report doesn't really have to be prescribed that way, no.
from my understanding then, from what I'm hearing and from my understanding, I would make a motion to table this indefinitely because we're already doing what's asked of it. So I'm asking, table this indefinitely.
I object to consideration of the motion on the table.
What's your objection?
It's a privileged motion.
My objection is that this is a matter of importance to the city. It falls within the guidelines of the contract. We were getting this information. The report sample I gave you is for what was provided to the city in 2016. So we were in the habit of getting this material. We were in the habit of having Chief Elliott put it into the public record. One of the documents that you have in front of you is a letter from Chief Elliott on a staff report doing exactly the same. Without this kind of information for the city, we don't have any way.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We don't have any way of knowing whether or not they're in compliance with other portions of the contract when it relates to spending on the animals for the money that we put into monthly payments to them and everything else. That was the purpose of getting this kind of detailed report. It was always expected. We have always done it in the past. We got away from it for whatever reason. I find it unacceptable and we need to retreat to where we were. And I'm perfectly fine with legal counsel's change to the motion. It should be a motion to request. I'm good with that. But I do object to our tabling and continuing this item. This is an important item for what we are currently addressing and have been addressing for months before council.
Mayor, just for clarification, and we need to do some work on the city code, but for privilege motions, so it says a motion to table, there's generally no debate over it. So it's just whether it's motion seconded and approved or not approved, that's the first order of business.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second regarding legal counsel, a second to the motion on the floor to table? Councilman Gibson,
I would second that.
cast your votes.
Motion fails 2-5 to table.
All right. At this time, are there any other questions for Councilman Yerger? Councilman Jensen?
Yeah, I just wanted a question with legal again, just so I'm understanding, so everybody's understanding for sure that the reports that we were provided is what we were getting 4 years ago, 5 years ago. They aren't required to, we can certainly make the request to. Am I understanding that correctly?
That is correct, yes.
Thank you.
We'll now, any comments from the public? Go ahead.
Just a minute. Hi. Oh, are you done? Oh, sorry.
Okay, thank you. We need a motion to receive. Councilman Yerger,
Make a motion to receive the document.
Councilman Sukram, or I'm sorry, Councilman Legban.
I'll second that.
Cast your votes to receive.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Thank you for Gloria Yerger, 2318 East Fifth Street. Thank you for receiving my document in the public record. After repeated editing and rehearsals, I knew I wouldn't be able to complete my comments in the time normally allotted to members of the public. I'm sure you know by now that proper care and treatment of animals is a very emotional topic for me personally, and that my passion has been for the animals and their well-being would once again compel me to request that the city council take immediate action to terminate its animal control contract with DCHS and replace it with a contracted provider who will actually respect and care for the animals of the community. I cannot believe that they don't even want the reports that they have available. DCHS's incredulous treatment of the public and its inhumane treatment and care of animals have created an unwanted and unnecessary cloud over this community for far too long. How these problems could go unattended by the city administration or the city council for so long is inexcusable. I think we've just had an example of that. Your inaction to date echoes loudly across the community. Like many citizens, I've been dumbfounded by the extensive delays. You can get a builder through in 3 meetings, you get down to 1, but 10 months, you can't do anything for the animals. DCHS comments made at the last open public comment meeting only serve to further reinforce the public's concern over the inability of the DCHS's board president and its shelter director to recognize the community's legitimate outrage over the contract violations that have been condoned. Claiming to be the victim, misrepresenting the facts, and making veiled threats to unlawfully release some 50 animals purportedly in their care all reflected DCHS's standard tactics. I hope you saw them too. Thankfully, I'm confident that other animal shelters and concerned citizens in this town will stand up to the threats and step in to protect and care for the animals if they are released. Back in November, you put out an RFP for applicants willing to provide replacement animal care. The deadline was December 15th. That's passed. Unfortunately, the public has been kept in the dark and is rightfully frustrated that the administration and this council can push developer issues through, but cannot deal with the animal issues that have been before you for a year. Thank you for enduring my passionate pleas and my emotional comments one more time. Please, please be transparent and show the public that you've heard their pleas by doing the right thing. That means terminating DCHS and hiring an animal control and sheltering agent that cares for and takes care of the animals. The money that you're paying out, they aren't earning. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, 3, yeah. Thank you very much. Any other comments from the public?
Good evening. My name's Kathy Robertson. I reside at 1896 Luther Lane in Hooper. I think it's really important that this council understand, as well as the attorney sitting over here, that state law requires the information that Brad is talking about be kept. It's very clear. There's actually a document on their website that shows the information that needs to be kept. That information has to be available to the inspector whenever they arrive. And so that's the reason it was always kept and provided to the city each month, because it is required by state law. I would suggest that council and the attorney look into that. The other issue is transparency. Why withhold that information from the public when it is required by law? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Okay. There's on Zoom, we have a 402-615-2883. Please go ahead.
Susan Jacobus, 18. Am I okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Susan Jacobus, 1805 North D Street here in Fremont. I'm in agreement, was going to state what Kathy Robertson had just stated. Your prior inspections of our DCHS here in Fremont had called out that there was lack of documentation and records by the recent director, or the current director, I should say, of DCHS, and the lack of documentation, including the lack of vetting being shown. And there were numbers that weren't adding up, et cetera. The prior record keeping that Mr. Yerger, Councilman Yerger, had pointed out and had presented, I assume, from what council had received in prior years, was very complete. You knew when a specific animal came in, you knew how long it was kept in the facility, you knew exactly what vetting was done for that animal or any kind of treatment, and you knew when that animal went out and where it went back to, or whom adopted it, etc. So you always knew exactly how many animals were kept at the shelter for any particular day. And under the new director, we got very sparse documents, as the current council knows now, and it doesn't show any of that record keeping. And I believe what's being asked is, as Kathy Robertson had stated, that these are requirements of the state. And that is part of what has been documented when the inspections were done at our local DCHS that showed we had failed the documentation, the vetting records are incomplete, and the animals lacked the full care that they were to receive. And this was part of a contractual obligation as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Another on Zoom, Denise Shannon. You can go ahead. Please state your name and address. Hey, Denise, you're still muted. There you go. Can you hear me?
You can go ahead.
Can you hear Yes. me? Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me? Hello? Yes, go ahead, Denise. Can you hear me?
Denise, you're still muted.
I'm a trying. Damn it.
There you go.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Hey,
Denise,
one more time. Yes, we can hear There's a you. delay. Can you hear me? I'm a trying. Okay.
Hey, Denise, one more time. Yes, we can
There's
hear
a
you.
delay. Can you hear me? Hey, Denise, one Now more there's time. a We can come repeating back to echo. you. You Okay, can go ahead if you so- can hear us. My name is Denise Shannon. I live at 830 East 21st Street here in Fremont. I was born and raised here and have lived here most of my life.
Hey, Denise, one more time. We can come.
I think Denise
Repeating
might
echo.
help if you turn
Okay,
down your
Go ahead
volume.
if you can hear us.
My name is Denise Shannon. I live at
I
830
think
East
her volume
21st
is
Street here in
reverberating back into her
Fremont.
mic.
I was born and raised here and have lived here most of my life. At the last city council meeting, Ms. Parsons. My name is Denise Shannon. I live at 830 East 21st Street. I was born and raised here and have lived here most of my life. Am I still with you guys? Yes, you are. Go ahead. Hello? Am I still? Yep, Am I Denise, still- we can hear you. You can go ahead. Okay, I'm so sorry. Okay, so I'll start all over. My name is Denise Shannon. I live at 830 East 21st Street. I was born and raised in this town. I've lived here for most of my life. I am an advocate for animals, especially those considered as pets. I have been involved with and volunteered for rescues as a transporter, fundraiser, and multiple positions. Anyways, as at the last city council meeting, Ms. Parsons made some interesting comments that I would like to address. One comment in regards to the contract, and actually it was the only comments for the contract, were in regards to her actually admitting that they were not submitting things that the contract required. And then she questioned, really, what is it? So to me, who signs a contract that doesn't know what they're signing? And the fact that they didn't try to get with you guys to get answers or seek help with their own lawyer only tells us that they are irresponsible and bold, blatantly bold, in no fear of any repercussions for breaching a contract. Okay, excuse me, I'm nervous here. Their only defense is all the ruckus that's going on between them and the citizens of Fremont. And to cut this really short, I'm just going to say that if you guys continue the contract with DCHS, then you have no complaints for the rest of us coming at you time and time and time after again. I'm sorry, I'm very upset, but who would want to do business with somebody who's already proven that they can't handle it? Ridiculous. You need to really take a long look at their history in this town. They are continuously in the news, TV, newspaper, social media. They have zero trust in the citizens, from the citizens of Nebraska or Fremont, and they have zero reputation. So I'll have to ask you to wrap it up, Denise. yeah, that's fine. Just really think hard, because you guys are not going to look good if you continue doing business with this helter. Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Go ahead.
Teresa McGrander at 1825 North Keene Avenue, Fremont, Nebraska. I would just like to ask that instead of just the city administrator receiving a report, that one of you council members or the mayor gets one too, the original one, so it cannot be messed with and crossed out lines like the reports you've been receiving.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Seeing none, any comments from council? Seeing none, I would take a motion in regards to this item. Councilman Yerger.
I just make one statement and then I'll make my motion. Bear in
Councilman
mind,
Yeager, did you want to amend it too?
I'm sorry?
Did you want to make the amendments?
I
that we
will
wanna-
do that.
Okay, thank you.
But first I wanted to state, be sure that the document that I provided here is a sample and illustrative from prior years. To the extent that they may have changed their software or their reporting, The columns that are reflected in that report that are being offered for a sample to the city administrator are for that purpose. Certainly, if they need to accommodate for software changes, that's not intended that they have to do it precisely this way, but the information that's contained in that document should be in their current software packages, even though they may label their columns differently, et cetera, et cetera. So that was the intent of the sample. So to that extent, I would make a motion to request the city administrator to obtain from DCSH its detailed animal-specific monthly tracking reports for the month of November and December and all future months that provide the data contained in the previously detailed report attached to the document herein as a sample only, and that those documents be put into the record in the future.
Councilwoman Ganem, I would second that motion. cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Now, do we need to vote again? Okay. Now I'd take a motion on the amendment to request. The amended motion to request. Councilman Yerger.
Make a motion to approve the amended request.
Councilman Jensen.
And I will second.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Thank you. Item 17, Councilmember Yerger item, Animal Control and Sheltering Services and Perspectives. Natural HS Director Jocelyn Nickerson, Local Community Perspectives, Issues and Action Plan. Councilman Yerger, do you want to go over this item?
Yes, thank you. Yes, I was approached by a member of the community to add this item to tonight's agenda, and so I did so. As part of the request, I was informed that Ms. Nickerson had been in attendance or was following our meetings in regards to the Dodge County Humane Society and its contract violation issues. I further understood that she wished to address some of the DCS statements that were made in the last open public comment meeting, especially those made in regard to the threat made about releasing some 50 animals purportedly in their care and control, and should their contract with the city be terminated. The latter part of the agenda item was also added to give the community an equal opportunity to provide input and perspective on what DCSH had to say at the last open public commenting meeting, as well as to provide some further public insight or perspective or any action recommendations they would have that the council ought to be considering regarding this matter in light of the fact that they've been largely in the dark now for several months with regards to activity, and certainly in the dark with regards to what recently transpired when the council put out its RFP in November. So those were the purposes of this. I would entertain comments from the spokesperson that was requested, Ms. Nickerson.
We would need a motion to receive the presentation. So you want to make that motion then?
I didn't realize there was a presentation, but I'll certainly make a motion to receive it.
Okay. Councilman Sukram,
I'll second that.
cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Nickerson. Please state your name and address for the record.
Sure. My name is Jocelyn Nickerson. I'm the Nebraska State Director for the Humane Society of the United States, and I live at 15538 Seward Street in Omaha, Nebraska. Thank you for allowing me to come and speak. Really, I wanted to give you the opportunity to ask me any questions. When I learned that there were possibly 50 animals coming to your doorsteps, I wanted to say I'm happy to help and support in any way these good people here who just want to do what's best for the animals.
I have a large network, statewide network of licensed rescues, and have a great coalition that would be willing to help if that's what you would like. I'm not going to speak on whether or not you should end your contract with DCHS. I don't know the people there. I'm assuming they're trying to do their best, but I don't know. Can I answer any questions?
I'm sorry, miss, they're actually not allowed to have a dialogue with you.
Oh, okay.
But,
Okay.
But if you did have a report to provide, then they're certainly able to receive that.
No, I don't have a report at this time, but just really want to reemphasize the fact that I've been in this position for 10 years. I've done rescue myself, so I know what that takes. And I'm happy to provide any resources and support that we can to the community, because I know you've been struggling for more than just 10 months. I know it's been several years. So whatever I can do to help. I'm in Omaha and very close. Thank you. Is there any, I guess I'd take comments from council, if there's any. Councilman Sukram?
Oh, I'm sorry, I left it on.
Councilman Jensen?
I would just like to offer that if from Mr. Newton or legal, if we can get your contact information, and we can get that to the city and then see where things go from here. All of us here on council know that we've been going through some things through executive session things. I know that it's difficult for people that don't know what all is going on, but more information is better, and thank you.
Councilman Ure?
Yes, I too want to thank you for coming tonight and for helping to clarify an issue that certainly was of concern when we heard that there might be animals of sizable number placed out in the cold immediately, I guess. And, what would we do with those? And did we have capacity? And the fact that you have resources that you could make available helps take some of the sting and concern out of that, whether it was real or not. Being able to make sure that we could protect 50 animals, if that's the case, so that they would get the care and treatment that they need, rather than to be released back into the public, which would seem to be an egregious act in and of itself. But nevertheless, I am very appreciative of knowing that we have ample resources to accommodate said animals should that ever happen. So thank you for coming and letting us know.
Thank you, Ms. Nickerson, for coming. All I'll say on this is, I hear you all. I mean, thank you for coming tonight and sharing. I've followed this throughout the campaign as well, and understand there's, this is a difficult issue here in Fremont. And so I just want you to know that I hear you. We hear you as a council. I think for all of us, this is an important issue to address. And I can tell you, I'm working as hard as I can. We are to address this, and we hear your concerns. We hear you and understand the situation. So I can give you that. It's the priority of mine to get this moving as quickly as we can. And so, again, I thank you for coming. We hear you, and we're getting moving on this as fast as possible. I will, if there's any other public comment, take that right at this moment.
Teresa Seawick, 1929 East 9th Street. Thank you for taking comments. As I watched in a previous city council meeting, I was left with a horrible feeling in a pit of my stomach. I was absolutely distraught by the account given by Tamar Reed in regards to a female employee that was subjected to harassment by 2 city council members. I was so upset by this account that I took it upon myself to do further digging into the matter. What I discovered was even more horrendous than what Tamara had described. What I uncovered is Tamara Reed attempted to bring completely false allegations of assault, harassment against 2 city council members. Although these council members were never named, the detailed narrative that she gave was enough to completely distract from herself and the factual allegations against DCHS. There are police statements, witness testimonial, and video evidence that completely and utterly contradicts her malicious statements. What she described happened that night over a year ago, mind you, was a flat out lie. But why should we be surprised by this? DCHS has continued to come under fire for numerous animal rights violations time and time again. The Animal Advisory Board was assembled to find proof of any violations. They did what was asked of them and found DCH in violation. Tamara Reed attacks their credibility and each council member for their selection on the board. You should ask yourself why. Mayor and council members, I urge you to look at the facts and acknowledge that DCHS has continuously violated their contract within the city of Fremont. They must be held accountable, and you are the body to do just that. All financial backing for DCHS must be revoked immediately. On another note, Jamie Parsons admitted that they would not be able to stay afloat without the money they get from the city for animal control. DCHS is a 503c3 licensed animal rescue facility. First and foremost, they are a rescue facility. There are rescue facilities all over the country that stay afloat doing only rescue work, and they have nothing to do with animal control. DCHS should be able to operate as a rescue with or without animal control contract. Ironically, the rescue that provided you with the proposal seems more self-sustaining than DCHS. At this point, if they rescue no public funds, if they receive no public funds, they budget and rescue on donation and grants only. You have heard our voices time and time again as we speak for those animals that cannot speak for themselves. Now is the time to act. It's not too late to do right by the smallest and furriest critters that call Fremont home. Thank you for your service to Fremont. It's time. We've waited long enough. Thank you.
Thank you. On Zoom, Austin Filter. Go ahead, Austin. Please state your name and address, please. Hey, Austin, you're muted. Sorry, I just want to say a lot of the things that people say are completely false, and it's honestly annoying that people think they know what goes on, but they don't step foot in that facility, nor have tried since they've said all of these things. And it's frustrating considering I've worked there for almost about a year and a half, and a bunch of these allegations are completely false. And I just wanted to say that most of these people don't know what they're talking about. They act like they know everything about animals, and they don't. They don't know how to run a shelter. They don't know what goes into running a shelter, and they act like they know everything. And they shouldn't be able to do this. It's just annoying considering I work there, and I've worked with some great people, and all the animals get taken well care of, and no one does anything bad to the animals. And people constantly accuse the Humane Society and Tamara of doing that, and none of that is true. That's all I had to say. Thank you. Any other comments?
Kathy Robertson, 1896 Luther Lane, Hooper. For those of you who don't know me, I volunteered for some animal shelters. I've served on the board of the Blair Animal Shelter. I have volunteered there. I've been knee deep in lots of things. I currently have a group called the Working Cat Project, where we spay and neuter cats in the local area, trying to prevent overpopulation. I'd like to bring a bit of a different perspective that maybe some of you haven't been made aware of. Animal control is a necessary evil, and I think most people would agree to that. It's something that government is responsible for and must care for. It's something that the public creates, and that others that the city or whoever must contend with. Overproduction of cats and dogs, cruelty, things like that. Therefore, it is a necessary evil, something that must be done. However, you can take that necessary evil and turn it into something actually very good. Most of you may not know that there is currently a void north of Omaha for animal sheltering services. You've got Columbus to the west, Norfolk, but you go straight north, Dodge County and beyond, there are no services. The suffering that goes on is actually quite astounding. The city could take advantage in a financial way from contracting with a nonprofit that understands their role in controlling populations and servicing the community. How do they do that? First of all, let's look at the tax dollars that having a local shelter here generates for the city of Fremont. I have seen numbers that adoption, I'm sorry, I'm losing my place. The DCHS is now down to about $20,000 annually in adoption fees. It was 40. That's a decrease in sales tax for the city of Fremont. The fact that with all of this animosity and not being transparent with their numbers and allowing people in that shelter, people don't want to come to Fremont to see those animals. They want to deal with shelters that are transparent, that do have a no-kill policy, and that show their numbers that they truly are a no-kill shelter, which is 90% save rate and above. It doesn't mean that everything is saved.
I'll have to ask you to wrap it up.
Okay. Anyway, I would like for you to take a minute and see it from a different perspective and turn this into a positive. And it takes about 20,000 people radius around your shelter to create that environment, one that people want to come to. And what do? They go out to eat. They come to Fremont to look at the animals, to adopt from other places. They are eating in restaurants, buying gas. It's all good for the city of Fremont. And if you want to create that, you have to have a 501c3 that knows how to portray that positive persona.
Thank you.
To the public. Thank you.
Amy Mortensen, 1545 East 19th Street. I just want to address the fact that neither Ms. Parsons or Ms. Reed bothered to use their time to publicly announce all the changes they have made to make swift corrections. They didn't state any new open to the public policies. They didn't state any new relationships they have built with rescues or other shelters to network their animals. Their website still possesses the same 7 or 8 dogs they had advertised for adoption as they did back in May before they took all media outlets down. Nor have I seen any advertisement of animals that have come in as strays over all these past months. Where are the changes? If I had done that much work to correct my wrongs, I would be able to proudly stand before the council and list them. But all anyone got were excuses and merely that there were changes, but no one has bothered to see them, per Ms. Parsons. Also, I remember them mentioning that they haven't banned anybody or anything like that. I think that was from Tamar. Well, I myself have been banned because I used to work there. Also, she's been banned because she used to work there. We can't step foot in there anymore. And we never did anything. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, go ahead.
Wendy Pete, 13563 Margot Street, Omaha. Going on 15 months now with you all. Nice folks. First off, thank you to the one council member who took the time to reply to my email I sent to all of you on December 30th. I appreciate the acknowledgement of that email, whether you agree with me or not. It is apparent that those who spoke from DCHS at the last meeting are still not taking any responsibility for themselves. They continue to point fingers, deflect, and make excuses for the issues going on at DCHS. There are many rescues and shelters that have thrived during COVID-19. Donations, volunteers, adoptions are at an all-time high with many rescues and shelters around the country. Jamie Parsons states, all of DCHS's issues started with the Step Down Tomorrow protest. She couldn't be more wrong. When I first got into rescue in 2014, I heard about things with DCHS. Issues would arise, then get swept under the rug. Even council members have publicly mentioned things that things have been bad for way too long. Then in October 2019, I lived it, the DCHS hell, and saw it firsthand with my own eyes with a dog named Cinnamon. Has everyone forgotten the sworn affidavit from Maddie Matthews regarding Cinnamon? How about the long list of names turned into the police by Maddie and myself who knew Cinnamon was at DCHS for 14 days hid? Which, by the way, you have a list of all those names because they were in the emails I sent you. What about the fact I was told by the police that Jamie Parsons is not allowed to be questioned in this matter? What about the fact that when I asked the police to go to DCHS to see if Cinnamon was there, I was told they weren't allowed to do that? What about when I asked a current board member at that time to go to DCHS and see if Cinnamon was there and was told she wasn't allowed to either, and that the situation was unfortunate? What about Jamie, Tamar, Spencer Wilson having a closed door meeting with Judge Hall trying to quash a warrant for the DCHS server? If you or I was accused of harboring someone else's dog, the police would show up at our house. We would be put in handcuffs for theft and of not returning someone else's property. All these questions should be asked by each and every one of you to the chief of police, who's here tonight. With regards to Jamie's concern with existing animals at DCHS, this should not be a concern to anyone at all. For several years, even prior to Ms. Nickerson stating that she would help, there has been an entire team in place ready to assist with networking, placement, and fostering for all existing animals still at DCHS. No worries at all. We've got them all. We'll take care of them. That's what we do. We all appreciate the time City Council has taken with the DCHS matter. I hope that everyone sees that doing the same thing year after year with DCHS isn't working, and that there's new, improved, and better options for pets and owners of Fremont. It's time for real change and real solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a Zoom, Nick Gurr. Go ahead. Okay. There's any in the chambers? Go ahead.
Rachel Tuff, 1825 North King. You know, tonight I've typed up everything all week to present to you guys. And honestly, you guys have all heard it before, or the newly seated has had plenty of time to catch yourselves up on all these issues. But I just want to point out that numbers don't ever lie. Dodge County Humane Society has responded to 56 calls for animals since the Bessie protest. Forever Homes has responded to 273. Working Cat Project over here, 340. Numbers don't lie, and you guys aren't paying these guys anything, but you're paying DCHS with our taxpayers' money. Sounds a little absurd to me, but, and then, you know, Ms. Parsons went on to state that DCHS sat down and went through each line item of the contract and admits to failing to understand what's not being provided. And she states, and I quote, "Really, what are they? It's called the contract. The animal control contract was signed by both the city and DCHS at the last renewal. And when you sign a contract, you inherently confirming that you understand and agree to the listed terms. Each line item is there so that parties can be assured of the contract term compliance so that the animals will be getting humane care and treatment with our taxpayers' money. And she had also Ms. Reed had stated that Councilmember Ellis has given false statements about DCHS. Contrary to her assertion, it's been my observation that Councilmember Ellis has only commented on what has been offered as visible proof placed before the Animal Control Board or the council. Documentation and report findings speak for themselves. Councilmember Ellis is one of the few council members who have made time to meet with the citizens and listens to their concerns. If you believe this to be untrue, then please provide me a time and place where you have been willing or will be willing to sit down and listen to the concerns of the city, because I have emailed each one of you guys. I have not received a response except from 2 of you. And I basically email you guys like every week and still have yet to hear anything back from you guys. But then Ms. Reed states that DCHS holds the contract for animal control and she and her staff are unable to respond to the animal control calls because they're being bullied and harassed by individuals of this community. I ask, is DCHS really claiming to be the victims here? Citizens have been forced to be outspoken about DCHS's wrongdoings and actions. The animals need a voice and protection. Since April, DCHS has demonstrated an arrogance about the need to fulfill its contractual obligations to the city in regard to providing effective animal control services. To say this was the city's fault would be laughable if it wasn't so tragic. So, and she's right that she can't provide this city with the animal control services because there's too many citizens out here that are going to be too upset. So it's time for Fremont to find something new.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Teresa McGrander, 1825 North Keene Avenue, Fremont. In case you all don't know what Miss Pearson's job is, she is the assistant manager of RTG Medical. She negotiates contracts in the medical field on a daily basis. She is very well educated on how contracts deal with. It's up to you guys to make sure that she is put in her place and that she knows exactly what she's dealing with.
Christine Greenfield, 1256 North Clarkson Street, Fremont. So Cinnamon is my baby. And to people, there are people without children that they're animals, and I'm sure some on the board have them, that are like their children. My dog was kidnapped, more or less, was held and said that she wasn't there by a city official. How is this not fraud? And how is this not against the law? How is she not being fined for I mean, the Center of Disease Control, you have to have a number of animals, vaccinations, things like that, I would think, of information given. How are we not being fined, the city of Fremont? How is this not happening? And how is the law not being taken care of? Anyone else, any common citizen of Fremont, if they did not follow the law and follow the stipulations that they needed to, would be in trouble. So how is a city official able to answer a phone and tell me that my dog is not there when it is her job to care for animals and she has taken mine against my will? I just don't understand how that is possible, how there are 3 to 5 different stories of what happened to my dog. And never has it ever been uncovered what was the real truth, ever. I just will never understand that. And I thought Fremont was better than that. And coming to these, I mean, I hope you all make a difference from the last one, because nothing's happened. This is for years. I mean, it just had to be. I just don't understand it. And I don't understand how the law is not being taken care of the way it should be, because for anybody else, it would be.
Thank you. Seeing no other comments, there's no action on this item for 17, correct? Okay, we received presentations. Now moving on to item 18. Executive session for attorney-client privilege to discuss pending litigation and contract negotiation. I would take a motion to adjourn into executive session.
I'll make. To go in executive session
Oh,
for the purpose of discussing pending litigation and for the further reason that the executive session is necessary for the protection of the public interest.
Councilman Sukram,
I'll second that.
a motion and has been made and seconded to go into executive session for the purpose of a strategy session for pending litigation and contract negotiation and for the further reason that the executive session is necessary for the protection of the public interest. Is there any discussion? Councilman Sukram,
No, sorry.
Councilman Ellis?
I'd like clarification from our legal. It's stating here that we're going in for pending litigation. Is it, my understanding is there needs, if an individual or an organization wants to sue the city, that there has to be a tort claim filed first. Is that correct?
That's not the sole means of,
It's what?
that's not the sole means of filing a claim against the
So they
city,
can
but
sue this city without a tort claim?
there are other avenues of relief, yes.
Any other discussion? Pending motion is to go into executive session for the purpose of a strategy session for pending litigation and contract negotiation, and for the further reason that the executive session is necessary for the protection of the public interest. Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Motion to go into executive session for the purpose of strategy session for pending litigation and contract negotiation, and for the further reason that the executive session is necessary for the protection of the public interest has been approved. Discussion will be limited to strategy session for pending litigation and contract negotiation. No official actions or votes will be taken. Time is now 8:42. We will move to the conference room.
I will make the motion to come out of executive session. I will make the motion to adjourn.